Elon has like an obvious Mali influenced EDM track called Don't Doubt Your Vibe. And it's like, you know, what guys in their 40s who start doing Mali do when they have like EDM producers at their disposal. He's like, you know, it all forms one clear picture of megalomania. And, you know, speaking of attempting to change the subject, there was the cybertruck bombing, which I think is iconic. And it does symbolize where we are and where we're going. You know, I was thinking on New Year's Eve, like we are entering kind of an era of, I was thinking about Luigi Mangione, but I was thinking we're entering an era of assassinations, where in the United States, the public has lost confidence in their government's ability to reform or change anything in a way that benefits them. And there are going to be some vigilantes. There's also a major mental health crisis, and people are so addicted to social media that they're seeking notoriety. So this Cybertruck bombing, it was like an iconic moment where the ultimate kind of douche mobile blows up in front of Trump Tower. And Elon tries to spin it to, I think, change the discussion and to sell his truck.
Yeah.
I don't have the Elon tweet, but this is by one of Elon's fanboys. A bomb went off in the Cybertruck's bed and the tires didn't pop, deflate. The exterior of the truck is intact. The bed door is still attached. Steel exterior helped contain the blast. It's the toughest and most badass truck ever made. It also happened to be true that Matt Livelsberger, who went by Matt Berg, who is a former Green Beret from the 10th Division Special Forces, somehow didn't make a very good bomb. It looked like he just whipped some fireworks together with one fuse. I mean, it blew up straight up in the air and didn't do much damage there, except to him apparently. Yeah.
So he's fused into the dashboard because of high temperatures, and the best Elon can do is, that's a badass fucking truck, man. I mean, it's how far do you want to go on conspiracy theories? But what if the battery exploded and there were fireworks in the back? I mean, that's not a very good story, is it? I mean, because the batteries do explode sometimes. That's just one of my far-flung conspiracy theories. But that really kind of shows you the level that people are playing at, including Elon Musk on this. And it's the age of assassinations. We've been here before as well. And often in the age of assassinations, the elite mix with the gutter. Look at Charles Manson and look at all the Sharon Tate murders.
And
terrorism as well.
The years of lead in Italy is also what I'm thinking about, where radical seeming violence is actually instrumentalized to create a sense that the public, to create panic among the public so that they close ranks with the establishment just out of fear of what the left or far right could bring.
That's what Operation Gladio was.
Operation Gladio.
Just that, basically, yeah.
And we haven't, we don't know much about Luigi Mangione, honestly. Like it's like he's sort of been disappeared, sort of also like the drone story. But Matt Livelsberger, we've learned so much about him, and we know everything about his internet history. He apparently appeared in a History Channel show. And, I don't want to speculate about the bombing or the motives for it without any hard evidence. But I think the story here that so many people are missing, that you didn't miss, I think you nailed it on Twitter and in your commentary, Patrick, is who the manifesto or the alleged manifesto by the Cybertruck bomber was leaked to. And it was leaked to someone who is also, I think, a Green Beret, 10th Division, named Shawn Ryan. And who somehow now suddenly has the #1 podcast in America after he appeared on Joe Rogan. And he's a former CIA contractor. Like, he lists it in his bio. And the whole interview with this guy, here's the tweet where they introduced the
Sam Schumat is the name of
Schumat,
who's another kind of
CIA guy,
forces and intel guy. So it's like the intel bros kind of podcast circuit. Sean's a Navy SEAL, a former Navy SEAL. That's a very marketable commodity, of course, as you know.
Yeah.
CIA contractor. I'm not sure if I'd want to put that on my resume, but there it is. It's on there as well. CIA contractor. So yeah, and so they've laundered this story, and this is the main outlet for this story.
Yeah.
It's a closed loop if you think about it. And the email in question, Matt, and I'd like to get your comment on this because that's actually a point of contention. Is the image they put out for the email had squiggly marks and a cursor on it,
Yep.
which means that they either it was in edit mode or they had copied and pasted the content. And lo and behold, Shawn Ryan to exculpatory to give an exculpatory narrative. He ran a Twitter space after this disaster of an interview, and he basically said, "Oh, we copied it into Apple Notes so we could redact the names." And
Right.
I'm like, I've handled quite a few emails just on the publishing side, and that's not how you redact names.
Yeah, you can just black out the names like we do it constantly at the Grayzone.
And you can use Adobe PDF Maker even to do something that simple if you want. So it's pretty standard. And if you look at how the industry standard for emails is, it will be some kind of a digital shot of the full view of the email. Plus, you have to include the header and the HTML and the meta information, and you can make that downloadable. That makes it authentic. That's a legal standard to go into court, even as a piece of evidence, right? So they didn't do any of that. They haven't even published the email properly, and they've just put out little breadcrumbs on social media. So I kind of criticized them for that, and he didn't even publish it on his website. So then they say the FBI have it, but what do the FBI have? Your Apple Notes JPEG, or do we? I mean, so what's Max? The issue here is this: they're LARPing as journalists, and for a national story, and they can't even do student 101 level handling a basic email and to some kind of a digital standard that makes it credible. And then he got angry that people were criticizing them and started, slagging off the public and the audience for questioning their motives and stuff like that. It's nothing to do with that. It's journalism. But these people want to do journalism without calling themselves journalists. And when I challenged one of their colleagues on this on a Twitter space, an X space, he basically lashed back at me. He said, they're not journalists. They don't have to adhere to that standard because they're not journalists. They're podcasters.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Which I thought was...
They're also CIA adjacent podcasters who just non-organically became the number one podcast, and they just lie and make stuff up constantly. And it all goes in one direction, which is the direction of supporting the MIC and the intelligence apparatus. They have this whole, just watch this. And this will, if you haven't seen them before, this is like the vibe of the show all the time. So Shawn Ryan and this guy, Matt Shoebox, or what's his name?
Sam Schumatt.
Sam Schumatt. They pivot from the supposed ISIS attack in New Orleans, ISIS being the mortal enemy of Iran, to allege that Iranian manpads are somehow coming across the border to take down civilian planes in the US. And millions of people are watching this. And then here's where Shawn Ryan takes it.
To deal with it in their communities. There are deputies in New Orleans who put in requests for training on how to take care of a threat like this. And those fucking requests were denied. They were denied. And so what I basically want to say is it's going to be a bloody 2025. I think that's very obvious. And so for those of you that are looking for something to do and if finally come to the realization that our government is failing us, here's what you need to do. You need to get with your local communities. You need to, especially schools. Schools are very vulnerable no matter how many active shooters we have in the schools. The infrastructure that's been put in, which is minimal to none. A lot of schools still have none. You better start holding your schools accountable, and you better start raising hell and having them upgrade security no matter what the cost, because no matter what the cost is, it's not gonna amount to the loss of life that we will potentially see throughout the United States. And so, and Start calling your congressmen. Get these guys to do something.
Yeah.
Start calling your senators. Get these guys to do something. They have been warned for over a year that this is coming, and nobody wants to take it seriously. Nobody wants to take it seriously. No matter where you're watching Shawn.
So, I mean, in between like hawking various like pills and keto products
And phones.
and phones.
Phones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The secure phones. They like Shawn Ryan. He always is like, I heard from my buddies through Humans and SIGINTs and the 3-letter agencies that we got some threats coming down the pike. And we got spec ops. So we got Iranian man pads coming across the border. And then he goes like this. He goes, the government's doing nothing about it. These deputies haven't been trained. There's no, there's no armed guards at the schools. And it's clear like he's prepping the ground for some new war on terror type event. And he's urging everyone to lobby their members of Congress to basically increase the military budget. That's where this all goes. And then he brings on this CIA spotter lady. What's her name? Sarah.
What's it? A CIA targeter.
CIA targeter.
I've not heard that title before, but
neither
I'm
have
not
I.
in the spec up community, so I wouldn't know.
Sarah Adams.
Sarah Adams.
Yes. Why would the two operational heads of both these groups go get the permission of Iran? So anyway, so a lot of the people they're training in these 30 camps in Afghanistan are going there.
She's looking down at her notes, by the way.
10,000 to meet this request from Iran. Okay.
Iran.
So that's a huge chunk.
Wow.
The other biggest thing they're working on is the Fatah war plan. I don't know if you've heard about this.
I haven't.
Okay. So this is Al-Qaeda, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Indo subcontinent, the India Al-Qaeda, and then basically a political group in Pakistan called JUIF. It's run by a guy named Fazl Rahman. Okay. So all these entities have come together and they made a war plan. And the war plan basically is to take over what's kind of called Pashtunistan. So you're going to take over the federally administrated tribal areas of Pakistan. You're going to take over Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, so the old Khyber province. And then they want to take over Baluchistan province. So this is Al-Qaeda's biggest personal plan. And so their war plan and their Fatah war planning is like I said, number 2 after the Syria, Iraq deployments. So they have, like I said, other ambitions, right? The bin Laden thing, even the Africa stuff, they've basically been like, they made a plan for it and we can discuss it later, but they're like, here's your plan, Africa, you run with it and do it. Cause we are.
I mean, it's like, where is this coming from?
How many troops does Al-Qaeda have? Like they have 500,000 mobilized or something? How are they going to pull off a forefront war? That's and do all the attacks on U.S. schools and all our airports and I don't know. It's quite ambitious.
Yeah. Here's another.
You want to know what's funny about that one, Max? Is that she was talking up the Haqqani network.
Yeah.
After the show on one of those spaces, and that's a U.S. created, CIA funded, trained operation, basically. And she's saying how we got to look out for the Haqqani network. They're teaming up with Al Qaeda. I mean, this is all like retread stuff from like 20 years ago or something, like Northern Alliance.
Watch this. I mean, this is the fakest thing I've ever seen.
There's no difference between Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Their ideology is identical. They're two sides of the same coin. They both want the same thing.
It's nothing that delivered to you, the people of America.
When they look at America, they don't see the United States of America.
We will not stop fighting. We will not put down our weapons until we reach your lands.
They see the Islamic States North America province, the Islamic States Latin American province, the Islamic States European province.
And we put the black flag on top of the White House.
Just like Afghanistan to them is the Islamic States Khorasan province, ISKP, what you call it.
We put the black flag on the White House. And
Wow.
you gave me that.
That was a Mexican accent. That's like Cheech and
Yeah.
Chong type. So that was Guido. That might have been one of their sources. Guido.
That was one. Was that Juan Guaido?
Guido. Literally, this guy. One of their sources is Guido. One of their And so it's a Latino guy for sure. But he's wearing a Pashtuni goat herder's hat.
Yeah, and he says he's an Afghan American veteran. And
That's a
Shawn
nice.
Ryan's like, we have the most badass warriors on this show every week. We got a guy from Afghanistan who's going to tell you what's really going on.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are so desperate to be back in work again, because a lot of these people made all their bank during the war on terror, and they're so upset that we got, the U.S. got booted out of Afghanistan in such dramatic fashion that they think that's a wrong that needs to be corrected. And at the moment, all those guys in that community are talking up Afghanistan. So and they say the Taliban is mobilizing cells in America. So you know where this is heading, basically.
Yeah, well, I think it's really important to expose this fraudulent CIA adjacent podcast because it really shows us where things are going under Trump and specifically under Mike Waltz, NSC director, because they want to hype up a new ISIS Al-Qaeda threat, not in Syria where ISIS, the Islamic State in suits, has taken over the government because they've pledged to be friendly or non-aggressive towards Israel and the U.S. occupation in northeastern Syria, which was justified on the basis of preventing ISIS from coming back, though they haven't done an anti-ISIS operation in who knows when. ISIS is holed up in the Al-Hul camp. They want to use the specter of ISIS to continue to militarize the U.S., impose more mass surveillance on us, including through the Starlink system and the Tesla system, which was used for surveillance to identify the supposed cybertruck bomber, but also to expand the U.S. military footprint in Africa, across Central and West Africa, where French and Western NATO troops are being kicked out, and in Central Asia, as well as Latin America. That's what this is all about. So this show is like one of the top psyops, and they had Pete Hegseth on, the incoming defense secretary, if he gets confirmed. They had him on recently to rant against DEI in the military. They're close to the possible next defense secretary, and they're running this giant propaganda ploy for a new war on terror. And they are complete fraudsters to the point where I would even question what this lady actually did in the CIA. Look at what Shawn Ryan said he did before he blew up. He said that he was a drug trafficker.
Oh, okay.
Former SEAL said he was a drug trafficker. He was on Megyn Kelly's show. I'd built quite the drug trafficking network down there in Colombia, he said. I got tipped off that federal police, I should say it in his voice, I got tipped off that federal police were surveilling me, so I abruptly left the country. And then he talks about how he was like geeking out on whatever he could put up his nose: Valium, Xanax, Loperidone, Ambien, hydrocodone, Oxycontin, Tramadol, whatever you can wash down to shut the brain down. And then he became like a major drug trafficker, and now he's back, and he's like this Trump ally, CIA adjacent, #1 podcaster in America who somehow gets to finesse the manifesto of the Cybertruck bomber out to the public without providing the actual email or any metadata. And they say we did a scrape on our email servers. It's not like you did we do a search. We search for emails, but they do a scrape on their servers. I'm telling you, like, what we've been talking about for the last hour and 15 minutes is how MAGA is going to be played to make Israel great again, bring in a new war on terror, and usher in a techno-feudal oligarchy. And that's why I wanted to talk about this with you, Patrick.
Yeah, and so this is the new mainstream. This CIA, but so their main audience is law enforcement, active duty military, veterans, and people who are in the kind of intelligence community or work in Washington, whatever. So it's got insiders, and that's a very effective social network if you want to inject information, which then gets fettered out through that network into society. Plus, they have the additional, millions in terms of subscribers. So if anything happens, they're going to, what they're doing is they're providing the road sign for the narrative, so that when events happen, the way that the intelligence community are planning for them to happen, that everybody is already moving on that stream. And what the really sad part about this is that I'm listening to people right after his last show that are emotional and traumatized, especially women, mothers, because they think that there's going to be an October 7th is coming to a town near you,
or school shooting. Hamas is going to do school shootings. Remember when the Hamas Day of Rage, and like Dan Bongino said he was going to go hide in his home in Florida.
Charlie Kirk, everybody was tweeting that out. The Day of Rage. Laura Loomer.
They're going to come get us. Hamas.
Hamas. But even Douglas McGregor got sucked into this, who I respect very much. He was saying Hamas got sleeper cells across Latin America. And I'm just trying to imagine what that's like while they're pinned down in Gaza, like how they could spare a battalion to be hanging out at a taco truck in Juarez or something like that, waiting for the call to get, it's just ridiculous. But this is the harnessing the QAnon level of analytical depth, which is what I think Shawn Ryan's audience is. It's really lowest common denominator. That includes people who are in the service, by the way, who also fall for this sort of stuff. Even Michael Flynn was pushing QAnon memes and believed that Q was real. So this is basically, I think it's quite dangerous because they're with Elon as well, and these people really injecting this clash of civilization, anti-Islamic narrative, that they could spin up the whole anti-Muslim stuff that we saw post 9/11 to an even higher degree in the United States. And that to me is unforgivable, considering what we and what the world has gone through since September 11th, what unmitigated disaster that's been for the Middle East, for Europe, and for the United States, North America, and everybody, not to mention how many rights we've lost and liberties we lost. And these are the people that will be calling for Patriot Act 3.0. These people. These people will be doing everything Edward Snowden risked his life to prevent. These people will be pushing it. Manpads. So what is the source of the manpads in Iran story? There's no evidence. I heard it from a guy,
this evangelical pastor who Matt Shumat or whatever his name is works for.
Yeah,
he rolled it out in September. And if you listen to the Twitter live that Shawn Ryan did after he went in hiding to avoid accountability for what he did before with the manifesto and the hidden email, he says we only allow pros in here. We're not allowing just trolls. We're only allowing, and it's just a bunch of veterans and former contractors talking about how their buddies in this 3-letter agency told them about this or that threat, and it's coming down the pike. And that's all they do. And no one holds each other accountable because they're all in on the same grift. But it's very consequential, because you have a traumatized audience who are being told to call their congressman and freak out and impose a new war on terror. What did Matt Livelsberger, the supposed cybertruck bomber, say about the drones? The public was never given an explanation. The New York Times, which said there are drones in the sky and no one knows what they are, they wrapped up their coverage by saying it was the product of mass hysteria. You're all just crazy. Go move on. And the public was never given an explanation. Matt Livelsberger said they are Chinese, gravity drones. It's a secret project.
Anti-gravitational UFO tech run by China that are launched out of submarines off the coast of New Jersey.
So we're under attack by China. I mean, we might as well just go to war with them right now, as the U.S. is currently training Taiwanese special forces as we speak.
And better, the Chinese have been doing this for years.
Yeah.
That's what he said. So
they're letting them. Our government isn't doing enough.
Because Biden's weak, and he's allowing the Chinese to thumb their nose at us. I mean, this is just so like it's like Nickelodeon level sort of narrative, Starship Troopers level kind of propaganda. It's so pathetic. But these people are put themselves up, position themselves, their brand, as being this kind of serious insider podcast. But basically, you have one spook talking to another spook about some alleged theory about something to do with UFOs and Chinese weather balloons. And it's just patently ridiculous. And all they're doing basically is feathering their nest for when the next false flag is engineered, or the next staged provocation somewhere in the world, or something that against U.S. interests, and then that hits the legal mechanism of the NDAA. authorization for the use of military force kicks in, and next thing you know, there's a mass deployment, and we're in it, basically. That's what happened after San Bernardino in December of 2015. That really strange, unlikely event out in the armpit of Southern California in the Inland Empire, that triggered the legal mechanism for the fight against ISIS, because ISIS had never attacked the United States. That is a very dubious event, by the way.
Which James Comey at the time said it doesn't make sense. And CNN was given a walkthrough of that apartment, of the shooter's apartment, just as the New York Post was given a walkthrough of this strange ISIS attacker's apartment. Once Trump enters office, or we're going to see an acceleration. I mean, when Shawn Ryan says it's going to be a bloody 2025, it's almost like a wish, because they're going to guide the public towards one solution, which
these guys are also trading off of Benghazi, all of them. Okay. But none of them want to talk about the fact that two things, that they were trafficking weapons to Al-Qaeda in Syria, or the all the various groups, the Free Syrian Army, al-Nusra ostensibly, and they were directly responsible in the breakup of Libya as a failed state, which caused the migrant crisis in Europe. These are conservatives, right? They're trading off of the immigration issue. They're trading off of fighting terrorism. They themselves are actively involved in two of the biggest patent failures in U.S. Foreign policy history, but they won't talk about that on their podcasts. That is verboten conversation amongst the community.